Imagine standing at the very edge of time, looking back on every decision, every breath, every moment that defined your existence, and hearing the words that were spoken centuries ago echoing louder than ever before. This is not just a story. This is a revelation that pierces through comfort, distractions, and illusions, shaking the soul awake from its slumber. When Jesus spoke about the final years, he wasn't just describing an event in history. He was pulling back the curtain on the human heart, revealing what many choose to ignore until it's too late. He wasn't warning to instill fear. He was unveiling a truth so powerful that it could rewrite the way a person lives and dies. The shocking truth Jesus spoke isn't buried in hidden codes or mystical interpretations. It's spoken in plain sight, but often drowned out by the noise of daily life. He said the final years wouldn't be a gentle fading out, but a season of intensity, of unveiling, where everything that was once hidden would be brought to light. People imagine their last years as quiet sunsets, gentle goodbyes, and peaceful endings. But Jesus described something entirely different. He spoke of times when hearts would grow cold, when love would be tested like never before, when the comfortable rhythms of normal life would be interrupted by signs that shake even the strongest minds. The shocking part is not just the events he described, but the way he said people would respond. He didn't say the majority would awaken. He said many would be asleep, lulled into distraction, unaware of how close they were to eternity. He said some would be eating, drinking, marrying, buying, selling, living life as if nothing was coming, right up until the moment everything changed. It's that tension between ordinary routine and extraordinary revelation that makes this message pierce like a sword. He spoke of deception not as a distant threat, but as a dominant force in the final years. He said many would come in his name, claiming truth, but twisting it. He warned that nations would rise against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, and the earth itself would groan with signs that no one could silence. But the most chilling part wasn't just the external chaos. It was the internal condition of people's hearts. He said in those days the love of many would grow cold. That means the final years wouldn't just be about earthquakes, wars, and famines. They would be about a quiet war in the human soul. The shocking truth is that the greatest battle in the final years isn't happening out there. It's happening inside people, in the silent corners of their hearts, where faith either stands or collapses. There's something unnervingly specific about the way Jesus described the final years. He didn't speak vaguely. He pointed to signs. He spoke of betrayal among families, of persecution rising like a storm, of people being hated for standing by his name. He said the path would narrow, the comfortable crowds would thin, only those rooted deeply would endure. And yet, in the midst of that darkness, he spoke of something radiant, something unstoppable. The message of the kingdom would be preached to all nations, and then the end would come. That means while the world unravels, something divine is being completed. The shocking truth is that the final years are not just about endings. They're about fulfillment, about everything written finding its final breath. Think about how humanity often expects progress to lead to peace, comfort, and better tomorrows. Jesus said the opposite. He said the final years would expose what's real and what's fake. The glittering promises of power, wealth, and ease would crumble. Structures people trusted would shake. The systems built on sand would fall, and only what's built on the rock would stand. He said there would be false saviors, false hopes, shining distractions that look like light but lead to ruin. He said people would run to and fro, seeking answers, but only those anchored in his words would not be moved. It's not the storms that define the final years. It's whether your foundation can withstand them. He gave a picture of two kinds of people. One hears his words and builds a house on the rock. When the floods come and the winds rage, that house stands. The other builds on sand, ignoring the warning, and when the same storm hits, the house collapses with great ruin. That's the shocking truth. The final years won't be survived by those who have the most comfort or the most knowledge. They'll be endured by those who built their lives on something unshakable. He didn't say maybe the storm would come. He said it would, but he also said there's a way to stand. He spoke of a moment when people would see signs in the sky, disturbances in the nations, and fear gripping hearts everywhere. He said people's hearts would fail them from terror, from expectation of what is coming on the earth. That's not poetic exaggeration. It's a description of a world where uncertainty reaches a peak, where people realize their control was always an illusion. But he didn't leave the story there. He said, when these things begin to happen, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. That means while the world trembles, those who listen to his words will stand in expectation, not fear. They'll see not just the chaos, but the King coming. The way he spoke was unlike any other. He didn't sugarcoat reality, but he also didn't leave people in despair. He painted a clear line. Those who cling to temporary things will be shaken with them. Those who cling to him will rise above the shaking. The shocking truth is not just what happens in the world, but how people respond to it. He said 2 will be in the field, 1 taken and the other left. 2 will be sleeping, 1 taken and the other left. It's a piercing image of sudden separation, of eternity drawing a line through ordinary life. He wasn't trying to scare, he was trying to awaken, to shake people out of spiritual sleep. He compared it to the days of Noah. People were living life, making plans, laughing, marrying, building, unaware of the storm forming until the flood came and swept everything away. He said that's exactly how it will be in the final years. The flood isn't water this time, it's time itself moving to its appointed end. And just like in those days, the ark isn't made of wood. It's made of faith, obedience, and alignment with his word. The shocking truth is that many will miss it not because they didn't know, but because they didn't take it seriously. He warned of false peace, of moments when people would say everything is fine, only to be caught off guard. He spoke of labor pains, contractions growing closer and more intense as the end approaches. Wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, increasing not just in frequency but in impact. But he said these are just the beginning of birth pains, meaning what looks like the end to the world is actually the beginning of something far greater to those who believe. He wasn't describing random chaos. He was describing a divine timeline unfolding exactly as spoken. He said the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to all nations, and then the end will come. That means this message isn't fading into silence. It's spreading to every corner, every language, every tribe. The shocking truth is that even as darkness increases, light doesn't retreat. It advances. He said heaven and earth will pass away, but his words will never pass away. Empires crumble, powers rise and fall, but what he said stands unshaken through centuries, outlasting every voice, every throne, every doubt. He spoke of vigilance, of watching and praying, of not being caught like a thief in the night. He said, be ready, for the Son of Man comes at an hour you don't expect. That means the final years won't give a clear countdown. It will unfold in a way that tests hearts. Some will mock, saying nothing is happening. Others will sense the shifting, the birth pangs growing sharper, the storm clouds gathering. He said, blessed is the servant who is found watching when the master returns. The shocking truth is that readiness isn't about fear. It's about alignment. It's about living every day like eternity isn't far away. He warned about distractions. The cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, the pleasures that choke the word. He said many would let these things make them spiritually numb. He said, take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life. and that day come upon you unexpectedly. He painted a picture of people so focused on temporary worries that they miss the eternal moment. That's the danger he highlighted. Not just external disasters, but internal drift. But he also gave a promise. He said the one who endures to the end will be saved. That's not endurance through personal strength. That's endurance rooted in faith. He promised strength for those who trust him, peace in the storm, light in the darkness. The shocking truth is that the final years are not hopeless for those who build on what's eternal. They're a moment of unveiling, where the wheat and the weeds are separated, where truth stands tall when lies collapse. He spoke with the authority of someone who sees the end from the beginning. He said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." He described a time when lawlessness would abound, when people would call good evil and evil good, when deception would be so convincing that even the elect would be deceived if it were possible. That's how subtle and overwhelming it would be, but he said, "See, I have told you beforehand." That means the warning is the mercy. He wasn't silent, he left a clear map. He said if they say he's here or there, don't believe them, for his return will be like lightning flashing from east to west. No one will need to announce it, everyone will know. He spoke of a gathering, of trumpets sounding, of angels sent to collect his people from the four winds. He said the Son of Man will come in the clouds with power and great glory. He said every eye will see him. That's not a hidden event, that's the most public, undeniable moment in history. The shocking truth is that the same Jesus the world mocked, ignored, or underestimated will return not as a lamb but as a lion. Not in silence but in glory, not for debate but for fulfillment. He gave a parable of the 10 virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. They all knew the bridegroom was coming, but only 5 prepared their lamps with oil. The others assumed there would be time later. When the cry came at midnight, only those ready entered. The door was shut. That's a piercing image. All had the same opportunity, only some took it seriously. That's the shocking truth. The difference in the final years isn't knowledge, it's preparation. He said, "Watch therefore, for you don't know the day or the hour." He wasn't giving a timeline to speculate about. He was giving a warning to live awake. He said the servant who says, "My master," delays his coming and begins to live carelessly, will be caught off guard. But the faithful one who stays ready will be rewarded. He described rewards not as vague feelings, but as real, tangible inheritances in the kingdom. That means the final years are not just about surviving, they're about being positioned for eternity. He spoke of separating sheep from goats, of a judgment where motives and actions are revealed. He said, "What's done in secret will be shouted from the rooftops." He said, "Many will say, 'Lord, Lord,' but he will say, 'I never knew you.'" That's the most shocking truth of all. It's not about outward appearances, religious performances, or loud declarations. It's about relationship, about whether the heart truly knew him. That means the final years aren't a time to play games with faith. They're the moment everything real stands and everything fake falls. He described a new heaven and a new earth, where pain, sorrow, and death are no more. He said he's preparing a place, a kingdom not built with hands. He said blessed are those who overcome, who remain faithful. The final years are the threshold, the birthing of that new reality. The shocking truth isn't just that everything will end, it's that something unimaginably greater begins. And those who mocked, ignored, or delayed will realize too late what they missed. But those who held fast will see with their own eyes what they hoped for. He spoke of the narrow gate and the wide road. The wide road is easy, comfortable, crowded, but it leads to destruction. The narrow gate is hard, unpopular, but it leads to life. In the final years, the difference between the two paths becomes blindingly clear. Comfort fades, truth remains. That's why he said, "Count the cost, take up your cross, follow me." He wasn't offering convenience. He was offering eternity. and eternity costs everything but gives back more than words can describe. He said the heavens and earth will be shaken, but those who belong to him will receive a kingdom that cannot be shaken. That's the promise, that's the foundation. The shocking truth isn't that the world will end. It's that everything he said about the end will happen exactly as he said. And the only question left is who will be ready when that moment comes.